Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I want to again extend a thanks to all our new subscribers and everyone who's been supporting the channel over the last few months. Today we're here to talk about Oni. Oni is a third-person brawler and shooter hybrid developed by the short-lived Bungie West studio, while the main studio was working on a little game called Halo. Oni is an odd game for a variety of reasons. Chief among them is that despite the fact that Bungie was owned by Microsoft at the time of release, the game was in fact published by Take-Two Interactive to honor a pre-existing contract with that company. The game released in January 2001, roughly 10 months before the release of Halo. Even stranger is that there was a PlayStation 2 port developed by the Toronto branch of Rockstar. Yes, the Rockstar of GTA fame. And yet, Take-Two never even bothered to develop an Xbox port even after the success of Halo, even though Bungie's name attached to the product would have almost certainly had given the title a second life on that platform. Oni takes place in the year 2032, in a tumultuous period of human history. In the years leading up to the game, all of the governments of the world were coalesced into the World Coalition Government, or WCG for short. In the years leading up to the game, the World Coalition was created to address the plurality of issues plaguing the world, including a largely classified climate disaster that rendered roughly 20% of the land on Earth virtually unlivable by mysterious biological contamination, in an event simply known as the Biocrisis. In one source, we're told that these areas were decreed to be wilderness preserves and flyovers were made illegal. Large atmospheric processors were created to filter the air of contaminants and toxins, especially near large urban areas. The World Coalition attributed the abuse of technology for most of society's woes, and created the Technological Crimes Task Force, or TCTF for short, to regulate the research and development of technology worldwide. Oni is an action brawler with a focus on timing and positioning. Its difficulty and the long stretches between checkpoints was one of the points of contention among critics when it released. And the game does occasionally suffer from difficulty spikes that can be hard to overcome on your first playthrough. But despite these issues, I find its combat to often be rewarding. Oni tells the story of Konoko, a purple-haired officer of the TCTF, investigating a crime organization with a fairly generic name, the Syndicate, and several corporations believed to be front operations for the Syndicate, allowing them to fund, conceal, and engage in research and development of illegal technology.
We are with the TCTF, and we hereby order you to cease and desist all operations. We have reason to suspect that this facility is involved in the manufacture of illegal technology.
The Syndicate is led by a single man, Muro, a man who lurks behind the scenes for most of the game. We spend the first couple of missions of the game tracking down leads, guided by the directions of Shinatama, an SLD, basically an android child. But eventually we discovered the last specimen of a research project that TCTF thought they had entirely shut down. A single massive brain hooked up to a large computer network called simply the Deadly Brain. Like I said before, Oni is an odd game. The brain is obsessed with the potential of instant stardom, and so it begins to flood the internet with pictures of itself.
It's unleashing a torrent of digital images of itself. Stop it!
It's basically a cringy social media obsessed millennial whose entire master plot revolves around uploading selfies en masse. The brain is defended by an extensive array of laser light activated defenses, and to the best of our ability we have to avoid these defenses to shut down the brain's system. The brain threatens to create a massive explosion that will kill hundreds of people unless we meet its demands for, well...
It wants feet.
I suppose that makes sense.
I am a brain, hath not a brain feet, hath not a brain hands, organs, dimensions, senses, affections, passions. Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer do.
Clearly, it's gone rampant.
We shut the brain down once and for all. As the mission ends, we get one of the first hints that Konoko is more than she seems at first sight during a conversation between Commander Griffin and Kerr, a scientist working with the TCTF.
How is she holding up?
Well, according to Shinatama, her diode latency has crept up to 29, but her bioplasmic waveforms are holding.
So she's still stable?
And so far as we can tell, yes, but prolonged stress could be dangerous.
She insisted.
Meanwhile, Konoko is heading to Vago Biotech, a company that conducts bioresearch that is being attacked by the Syndicate. As we approach, we are intercepted by Barbarous, a large imposing figure wearing powered armor, who shows signs of some serious mutations, and we best Barbarous, who then flees the scene. During the mission, we encounter several consoles with supplemental information through which we learn about SLDs, which stand for Simulated Life Dolls. SLDs were androids designed to mirror human physiology with artificial material, and prototypes have been incorporated into a variety of fields, including law enforcement, firefighting, manufacturing, and aviation. Current generation SLDs appear childlike, although reports suggest that the Syndicate have been developing their own SLD research in tandem, intending to use them for paramilitary purposes. SLDs are individuals in many respects. Dolls are grown by implanting micromechanical fabrication cells in large molds containing a mass of materials called prototissue. Priming data input was varied over a 14-day molding process, which approximates genetic variation and the effects of environment on early life. SLDs do not exactly simulate the process of the human mind, but they contain a behavioral framework patterned on a donor brain engram. Data fed into the system during its formation, sort of similar to how AIs from Halo and Exos from Destiny are patterned off of a donor brain. The core personality is then given a chance to develop a unique neural network while experiencing an accelerated streaming sensory feed, exposing them to a unique variety of experiences and information. Most SLDs spend at least 3 months in a sense loop, which is described as a kind of psychological womb. As we learn later, SLDs are often psychically bonded to a living individual. With some compelling world building out of the way, as we reach the end of the facility, we catch up to Murrow, who flees the scene in a truck. We give chase on a motorcycle, leading us to an airport.
Murrow, stop!
Killer, I have a plane to catch.
And it's here that we see the Syndicate killing innocent civilians for the first time, revealing their true brutality. We fight through the airport and catch up to Murrow, who once more hints that we are more than we appear to be at first
Your
glance.
potential is almost as great as mine. Unfortunately, that means you could pose a threat to me.
And Murrow flees the facility via a plane. But just in time, we place a tracker on said plane. Murrow converses with a henchman who reveals that the Syndicate has been tracking Konoko and determined that she is neural linked to an SLD. Murrow infers that the TCTF are using Shinatama to track Konoko's progress, once more hinting that Konoko is more than she seems. And Murrow sends Barbarous, his assistant that we faced earlier, to the TCTF headquarters to retrieve Shinatama. In the facility, we find a console that refers to Konoko experiencing a quote-unquote Daedon power spike, and that her strength, speed, and endurance were temporarily increased to superhuman levels. No context is given as to what a Daedon power spike is, or why she is experiencing it. There are also several consoles involving case files of illegal technology developed by the Syndicate in the TCTF headquarters. In the case file called Picasso Island, we learn that the renegade scientist Bertrand Navarre discovered a way to retask cells, making it possible to reshape bodies without having to worry about organ integrity. The doctor performed a variety of ghastly experiments on humans bought by the Syndicate. The facility was raided and the lab installation was destroyed, but Navarre was never recovered, opening up the possibility that Navarre survived and his research continued. Another case file called Flatline Zombies is even more interesting. It covers a Syndicate experiment where a popular subdermal transponder was implanted into the brains of subjects. Every time the transponder was used, it transmitted a signal that affected the victim's brainwaves, making them susceptible to suggestions from the broadcast on the same frequency, allowing the Syndicate to put the subject into a trance, forcing them to obey their instruction. In response to this, the TCTF started to broadcast interference signals and began regulating subdermal transponders. But some agents in the TCTF speculate that thousands of untriggered transponders are still active in the general population. As we continue to fight through the facility, we witness Shinatama being kidnapped and fight Barbarous one final time on the roof of the TCTF.
You can't escape me.
And naturally,
Who says I want to escape?
we kick Barbarous's fucking ass.
Doctor!
Kanoko heads to save Shinatama and ignores orders from Griffin to stand down.
I don't care who you are. My friend is in trouble, and I am going to help her if I can. Stay out of my way.
Shinatama is concurrently being tortured by Muro, and we arrive at the facility where she is being held, an air processing station designed to filter toxins from the air. Toxins created by the Biocrisis event. By the time we arrive, Shinatama is, well, worse for wear, and she finally reveals our secret.
You are my Hasegawa, your father.
You're malfunctioning. Let me get you out of this chair.
Don't! He hurt me, Kanoko, badly. If you try to move me, I will probably die.
But why? Why did they do this to you?
I am an SLD, an android programmed with your brain engrams. I have seen everything you have seen, felt everything you have felt. They used me to monitor the growth of the chrysalis inside you.
I don't understand.
Sir, bioreadings indicate that the host is in close proximity to the SLD.
Sergeant Griffin, believing that Kanoko is a risk that must be contained, orders Dr. Kerr to activate a destruct mechanism embedded in Shinatama. Shinatama warns Kanoko and assures us that she will do her best to delay the explosion.
Sir?
Give her a chance.
You heard the readings, Doctor. I can't afford to let her transformation continue uncontrolled. Proceed.
Shinatama, what's wrong?
I have just received a coded self-destruct transmission from TCTF Command. I can't stop the sequence, but I can slow it down.
I'm not going to abandon you. There has to be something I can do.
Goodbye, Kanoko.
No! Goodbye, Shinatama.
Detonation in 30 seconds. Detonation in 20 seconds. Detonation in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
After Shinatama's untimely destruction, Kanoko flees the scene and heads to the state building looking for files that will help her make sense of who she really is and who her father was. When she arrives and attempts to access the files, she discovers that there is a hacker in the building preventing her from accessing the files she desires. The hacker, a ninja-like warrior named Makad, downloads the files and flees, forcing us to give chase. For one reason or another, Kanoko can sense something familiar about him, but can't quite place what it is, implying that they are somehow similar or connected. We chase Makad across the rooftops until we finally confront him, and he provides the greatest challenge we've faced thus far. Makad boss battle is probably the most interesting and the most engaging of all the boss battles in the game. With Makad defeated, Kanoko retrieves the intel and heads to her father's lab. She listens to a recording of her father recounting the death of her mother.
If something isn't done, we are all doomed. Jamie's death won't be in vain. I'm going to do something about the nightmare that killed her. Her brother will help me. He misses her as much
as I do.
Kanoko then has a strange dream, which begins with a fight with Muro, then features a fight with Griffin, and then follows up with a fight with the doppelgangers. The dream sequence is very bizarre, and even includes a cameo from exploding Shinatama. Like I said, it's a very strange game. Kanoko wakes from her dream and heads to find her uncle Kerr, who, using an oversized machine straight out of a 90s action movie, examines how integrated the Daedon Chrysalis is with her body.
Now this may sting a
Kerr
bit.
explains that Kanoko's father believed that the only way to save the human race from the biocrisis was to change them so that they could adapt to it. Kerr explains that the Chrysalis is a hyper-evolved clone of the host body. As the host experiences stress or physical harm, the organism adapts to reinforce or replace the host organism's organs and features. Kerr reveals that Kerr and her father couldn't find legitimate sources of revenue to fund their research, so instead they turned to the criminal underground for funding, attracting the attention of the syndicate. Kerr reveals that he and her father created 2 prototypes based on the genetic profile of his 2 children, Kanoko and her brother. Murrow.
That's impossible!
Kerr reveals that the Chrysalis mutation is influenced by the underlying nature of the subject, and reveals that it's turning Konoko into a stronger and more resilient version of herself. Kerr is shot as the facility is overrun by the TCTF. While attempting to escape the facility, Konoko jumps into a pool of acid, believing that it's the only way out of the facility, and betting that the Chrysalis will keep her alive. Konoko tracks down Griffin, the leader of the TCTF, to deal out what she perceives to be justice. Griffin reveals that he had found and repaired Shinatama, and that he had repurposed her into a weapon to defeat Konoko.
You're a failed experiment.
Since armed and active.
Shinatama. No.
I'm sorry.
While this is a tragedy to be sure, the resulting boss battle is unfortunately just a repeat of the earlier Deadly Brain boss battle, only slightly more difficult.
Emergency override. No, stay back! This is a bad idea. Put the gun down.
I'm a rogue agent, haven't you heard? Very dangerous. I'm exactly what you wanted me to be.
Once we put Shinatama out of her misery, we are given a choice to either save or to kill Griffin.
So, you can pull the trigger or you can walk away. It's up to you.
And with that, only one final effort remains. We head to a Syndicate mountain compound to discover and stop Murrow's plans. We learn that Murrow's men have infiltrated atmospheric conversion centers all over the world, and were retrofitting the filtration system. Konoko deduces that Murrow intends to use them to poison the atmosphere, forcing all who desire to survive to pay for a Chrysalis. Konoko realizes that there are too many stations spread too far to disarm them all before Murrow activates them, but that if she can overload the generators, she can blow them up before the atmospheric damage is irreversible. Konoko fights her way through the facility and finally confronts her long-lost brother.
Welcome, sister. I am very impressed with what you've been able to accomplish without drawing on the full power of your Chrysalis.
You're capable of so much more. Let me show you.
This final confrontation with Murrow has two variations. One in which you face Murrow alone in the event that you kill Griffin, and another where Griffin arrives with reinforcements. If, however, we kill Griffin, Konoko and Murrow will fight head to head, and Murrow's Chrysalis will mutate Murrow into a complete monster, showing the demented potential of the Daeodon Chrysalis.
Join me, or die like all the others, choking on dead air and foul water. I've accomplished everything our father dreamed of doing.
He dreamed of life. All you know is death.
When we finally defeat Murrow, Konoko proceeds to speculate about the implications of the events of the game.
When I blew the processors, I bought us some time, but at a horrible cost. The dead and the dying now line the streets, but it's impossible to deny the problem any longer. My father's work may prove to be the salvation of the afflicted after all. Mankind as we knew it is doomed. The Chrysalis will change us all. Let's hope it's for the better.
With the Chrysalis released, it's just a matter of time before it will define humanity's future, separating mankind into the haves and have-nots, and separating those whose form remains human-like and those who transform into monsters. This brings us to the end of the video. If you enjoyed this video, I'd greatly appreciate it if you chose to subscribe to the channel. You might also want to check out a myth summary that I did a few months ago, the sequel of which will be releasing soon.
Let me go!
On the 72nd day before the moment of awakening, you, birthed from our loins and the loins of our enemies, the end and the beginning, whom we abhor and honor, the final journey commences.